Hi, welcome all the watching online. This is the regular board meeting for Alcoasand. This is the December meeting. It's early because of the holidays, everyone. Today is Thursday, December the 8th, 2022. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, God. Thank you. Ms. President, could you please do the roll call?
Mr. Harry Breedshaw. Dr. Shanna Tharp Gilliam,
Present.
Councilman Paul Klein,
Here, yeah,
Representative Emily Kincaid, Councilwoman Teresa Kale Smith, Darren Kelly,
here.
Sylvia Wilson.
Here. Thank you. And an executive session was held just prior to this board meeting. No votes are taken during executive session. We will move on now to our information items for today. Did anyone sign up for public comment? No one did. All right, thank you. We'll move on now to the 2023 budget. Ms. Fantoni.
Great, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. I have a very short presentation to share with you to talk about the 2023 Alcoasand budget. Included in front of you is the consulting engineers report for 2022 that includes the final 2023 operating and capital budgets. Colin Lampart from Hatch will be here. He'll be speaking shortly after I am to talk about the other components of this report that are required under the trust indenture. But this report is in compliance with our trust indenture. So shortly after it is approved, hopefully, knock on wood, I will be sending this off to the trustee, and it will also be available on our website for those, hopefully within the next week or so. For those that are interested in reviewing this information, it will be a public document. Okay. So, for those who are not familiar with the process, the budget takes us about 5 months. It's a 5-month long process in order to compile the information that's included there. So we start with August, we close August from a financial perspective, and then we create worksheets that we disseminate. These worksheets are then reviewed, analyzed by all the management team, all the directors. This is by far one of the biggest collaborations amongst Alcoasand. Everybody has a say in the budget. Everybody's expertise comes into play when compiling this budget. We disseminate these worksheets. We have 3 days of meetings, 2 days operationally that we hold meetings typically in the beginning of October. And then towards the end of October, we have 1 day where we meet and we talk about the capital components of the budget. And then we compile it. After that, we do a review internally. We internally review it, and then we also have Patch, the consulting engineer, also does an external review of the budget. They look to make sure the budget's reasonable, that it's achievable, and that it's necessary, that we need those funds in order to do the work that we need to accomplish in the next fiscal year and beyond. This is the second year of our 5-year rate resolution that was passed last year. So the rate resolution last year authorized 7% rate increases for the year 2022 through 2026. So 2023 obviously is the second year of that. So this budget incorporates that 7% rate increase on the revenue aspect. But budget board review. So last month I came to the board in executive session. We did a deep dive into the budget, and we gave it to the board for their internal review. Hopefully everybody had their questions addressed and answered. And so what we will be doing on the board agenda tonight, we'll be asking the board to approve the 2023 operating and capital budget along with the consulting engineers report for 2022. And then again, like I mentioned, copies of this will be made available to the trustee. So what are some of the highlights related to this budget? Again, we have the 7% rate increase for 2023. This provides additional funding for self-funded capital. We've heard many times in the past year about the Clean Water Plan and how costly an endeavor that is. We know that. We issued debt. We're going to talk about that in a couple slides. But we also want to self-fund as much of that capital as we can, because we recognize the fact that the more capital that we can pay out of our own coffers, the less money that we have to borrow, and we can decrease those costs to the ratepayer. This also increases our clean water assistance payment for a fifth year in a row by $2 up to $42 a quarter. So we're raising that from $40 a quarter, where it was last year, this current year, up to $42 a quarter. We're very proud of this program. This program, since it was started in 2017, has granted more than $1.1 million to our more needy ratepayers. So we're very, very proud of this program, and we're pleased to be able to be in a position to be able to raise that grant up to cover those costs. It improves all our coverage ratios and our liquidity, which again, when we start talking about where we are from a debt perspective, that's really important, that we want to make sure we maintain or improve those ratios, because the more that we can be liquid, the more the rating agencies like that. That's a big bonus for us, and we'll talk about that again in a little bit. And again, it meets all the requirements of the trust indenture. So for the cash requirements, where are we at? What is it that we actually need? We are between operations, we're about 111 million. Debt service went up. That's really the story this year. We issued the 2023 or 2022 bonds, which raises the 2023 debt service. This year, our debt service was slightly under $61 million is what we paid in principal and interest. And that number is going to go up by over 15 million to $76 million for 2023. And that is to cover the additional debt service on those funds that we borrowed in order to increase the capital borrowing that we have for the Clean Water Plan. Our capital spending is really in line with where the budget was for this year. So our budget for the capital spending for 2022 is right around 207 million. We're looking to spend about 210 million next year. And then our self-funded capital reserves, what I talked to before, what's left over, we want to stick back in the bank and save that so that we can use that in the future to continue that good work. So how are we going to pay for all of this? Again, we have that 7% rate increase, which increases our budget line on basic and special charges. Those are the monies that come from the ratepayers. So as you can see from the slide, we are almost 100% funded by ratepayers. So right now, that's what we look like. Interest income, so you can see there, we actually have a number in there this year as opposed to last year where that was like almost zero, because as you know, interest rates are starting to go up a little bit, bad on the debt side, but it does provide some relief on the income side. And then we have some miscellaneous other revenue that comes in. So our total revenue is looking to be about $220 million in 2023. So when we look at it by function, where are we at for the operating costs? So when we look at here, this is just a snapshot of where those are by function. So you can see obviously our biggest function, as it should be, is plant operations. That did see the largest increase last year, but when you look at the inflationary pressures that you're seeing, I mean, overall, you'll see through September when we actually compiled most of these numbers, inflation for 2022 was over 8%, was almost 9%. So when you're looking at those type of numbers, you would expect to see that. And actually those numbers overall only went up less than 7%, or right around 7%. So we're going to talk about capital the next couple slides, and the presentation on these capital slides are a little different than what you've been used to seeing in the past. We decided it made more sense to break this out between the capital program that's related to the Clean Water Plan versus what we consider to be our organic capital. Our organic capital would be anything that is not part of the clean water plan, and basically. So the clean water plan costs here, when we look at what our 2023 budget's gonna be from the clean water plan, we're looking at about $157 million that we're gonna be spending in 2023 to further those programs. This clean water plan total estimated current cost is about $2.2 billion is what that program looks like now. That isn't to say that that is everything. That is not complete. There are going to be things that we have not yet specifically identified and budgeted for in that number. So that isn't the last, you'll see that number. That number will change at some point, but this is what has been budgeted as of this year for 2023. So here's the organic capital. Again, this is anything that is not part of the clean water plan. You'll see in here, the biggest line item deals with the environmental compliance facility. Now that we've completed the work on the parking garage, I know Ms. Kennedy, Director Kennedy, will talk a lot about the environmental compliance facility. I'm sure you'll hear about it a lot in 2023, but it is a major program that's going to be, it's underway now. So we've actually started the program once the parking garage is complete, and that's going to be available and hopefully ready to be moved in 2024. This here is a list of our completed projects. It's actually quite lengthy compared to where we've been in the past couple of years. We're very proud of the ability that we had. We closed a lot of big projects. So you can see on here, the parking garage is included on there. That was, a $17+ million project. Regionalization, we were closing out part of that regionalization, which had to do all the prep work to get us to the point that we're at now. Now that we're actually doing the permanent transfers and things of that nature, we're going to be opening up another phase of that regionalization, but that part of that project is going to be closed. And again, we're looking at different things in here, like the river wall and other good projects that we've been talking about for some time, and they will be closed. So when we look at those programs, when we look at all those capital costs, this slide here is basically just showing where are we going to be spending most of our money next year on the capital side. So these are our 5 biggest projects. These 5 projects account for $130 million of that $210 million capital program. So this is the bulk of it. So again, the North End plan expansion, Director Kennedy has spoken on that many times, and you will hear about it again, I'm sure, many times in the future. The East Headworks, which is right across the street, which you can see right by looking where the big cranes are. The environmental compliance facility, which I mentioned, which is going to be going in directly behind the parking garage. Then you have the CSO bypass inspection, which you'll hear about in a little bit. And then you also have the design work, the final design work that's coming in for the ORT. This is exciting times. So when we look at the revenue side and we talk about rates, what does that mean for our ratepayer? I mean, that is our concern. We need to make sure that we can do this work, and we have to make it as affordable as possible. We know that is our goal. That is our key challenge with trying to balance all of this. So at the end of the day, the 7% rate increase will actually come out to be about $3.20 a month more per the average ratepayer. So the average household will pay about $3.20 more a month in their Alcosan charge than what they paid in 2022. So what does this all mean from a credit perspective? When we issued those bonds in November, we actually have to have meetings with the rating agency. So we meet with Moody's and we meet with S&P, and we have conversations. They came in, they actually did a face-to-face meeting with us this time, and we actually did plan tours, and it was a real nice meeting. It was nice to get to see them. But S&P was really impressed with us, so much so that they upgraded the authority to AA- with a stable outlook from our previous rating, which was A+. And Moody's affirmed our AA3 rating with a stable outlook, which they had upgraded us the bond issue before that, which back in 2020. And the reason why this is so good is now we are AA rated from both the major rating agencies, which not only does it help us keep our interest rates as low as we can keep them, but it also opened up our bonds to investors who may not have been eligible to participate in the purchase of those bonds. So you add more investors, you have more competition for those bonds. And again, it affirms, that we are headed in the right direction, that we have strong financial controls, that we have strong management, experienced management, the planning that we do. So the message that we're messaging is getting out there. And so it's very rewarding to get feedback like this from these external agencies. So what are some of our credit challenges that we have to be aware of and cognizant as we go forward on this? One of the things is that we are heavily leveraged. We do have a high debt ratio. It's going to go up. The bonds that we issued this year will hopefully take us into the beginning of 2024. Hopefully, but we are going to be back in the market frequently, and we are going to be adding more debt to the balance sheet. So what is it that, what other things could really be challenges for us, and it would be whether or not we can keep those costs under control. We need to make sure that we stay in budget. That's one of the big things that the rating agencies look at is we have those budgets for capital. We need to make sure that we're able to manage and get ourselves in those positions that we don't have the cost overruns, we don't have the timing overruns. So those are some of the areas that we have to look at. They also want to make sure that we stay fluid, that we stay liquid. We have to make sure that we don't put ourselves into a box. So we need to make sure that those financial measures that got us those good ratings, so we don't do anything that would jeopardize that. So that is the end of my presentation. So if there is any questions on anything related to the 2023 budget, I'd be happy to entertain them. Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty thorough. Remember, we should have a big old long workshop last month. All right, we're going to move on to the consulting engineers report. Coleman Lamport. If you wish.
So my name is Colin Lampard, manager for Hatch for our retained consulting agreement with Alcosan. I have the pleasure of being here this evening to give this board and the directors an overview of some of our responsibilities and work over 2022 as your retained consultant. I'd like to start by talking about the 2022 annual report that includes the 2023 budget that Director Fantoni so thoroughly just reviewed. But the purpose of this report is to provide a review of Alcosan's sewerage facility operations and financial positions for the year 2022. Additionally, the report is intended to look forward to 2023 and review the budget and the capital improvements. Alcosan is required to have their consulting engineer prepare this report by the terms of their trust indenture. And it's required to include several critical topics. To try to achieve this, we stay involved and work with Alcosan throughout the year. This includes periodic facility reviews, reviews of discharge monitoring reports for both volume and quality of effluent. We facilitate staff-wide capital improvement project meetings, and it typically culminates in our participation in the budgeting process for both the operational budget and the capital improvement side of the budget. We then work with the finance department and Director Fantoni throughout the budgeting process, but once the budgeting process is done, we kind of take it and start our annual report. And to expand on our review of Alcosan's requirements heading into 2023, a little bit, five quick points here. So one, our annual review of operations have shown that the facilities are generally in a good state of repair, are compliant with current regulatory requirements, and that the proper repair and maintenance that is required is accounted for in the 2023 budget. In addition, the revenues that we anticipate in 2023 exceed the operating expenses. So two, As we all know, the capital program as it stands right now is very robust. There is currently over $2 billion remaining to be expended over the life of the capital programs. We believe this is adequate to meet Alcosan's obligations moving into 2023. Our review of the revenues showed that the current rate resolution that was adopted in October of 2021 is adequate. And 4, finally, we've reviewed the insurance policies that Alcosan carries, and we found that they're in line with what is required by the trust indenture. To summarize, Alcosan again is in a very strong financial position moving into 2023. And just to add to that, the debt service coverage that Director Fantoni mentioned, as well as the upgrades to the sewer revenue bonds by both Moody's and Standard & Poor's reflect this strong financial position. So just a couple other things to touch on. Throughout 2022, there were several other assignments that we have been assisting with as part of our retained consulting agreement. One is one that you are all likely familiar with, and it's the rehabilitation of the Monongahela subaqueous interceptor. After the critical defects were found in the encased sewer and the adjoining culvert, we immediately began working in step with Alcosan, their staff, the construction manager, and the contractor on site to provide structural support, review of submittals, on-site coordination, and just some assist Alcosan with some additional oversight related to the unforeseen conditions that were encountered there. Another project that we've been assisting with is the Sheridan Park Ecosystem Maintenance Contract. We hope to have some bids for the board to consider in January, but Alcosan and partners did a stream removal project from the sewer system. Was in Sheridan Park in the city of Pittsburgh. The project was completed, and upon completion, a 22-acre active restored wetland was created. The restored wetland site requires initial maintenance to control and prevent invasive vegetated species from taking over the wetland. We know wetlands are good for overall water quality, and the invasive species will prevent that, and we need to control that. We've currently been working with Alcosan to put together its technical specifications and the bidding documents for this contract. Finally, one last thing that I'll mention is kind of emergency and as needed construction management, construction inspection support. We've provided construction inspection services for various emergencies, short-term projects, really as needed. Oftentimes this work ends up being nights, weekends, short notice, but we're here to really support Alcosan and fortify your emergency responses. So just in conclusion, both Hatch and myself would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. As a resident of this community, I'm excited for myself and the future generations to reap the benefits of all these wonderful programs you guys are embarking here on at Alcosan. Just like to say that it's an honor and a privilege to be part of this historic work and to share in Alcosan's mission here in the community. I'm proud to be here. I'd also like to wish everyone a happy, safe holiday season and look forward to another successful 2023. Cool. If there's any questions, I'd be happy.
Not hearing any.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. All right, another exciting thing to hear about, the regionalization permit transfer update, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Big things happening in regionalization. On November 29th, we received notice from DEP that the permit for T9 was transferred to Alcosan. This 4-mile long trunk sewer takes flow from the municipalities of Monroeville, Wilkins, Turtle Creek, and Churchill. This will probably be the first of many that will be transferred in the coming months. We're probably looking at up to 25 miles. coming over to us within the next 6 to 9 months. This slide here is a slide that illustrates the transfer process. We really started this effort in 2016 with the televising of regionalization sewer. We televised, inspected over 200 miles of sewer. We had contracts with the inspection of these sewers that were eligible for transfer. During the inspection, we found many pipes that were collapsed or either in a failing condition. We prepared reports which we submitted to the municipalities and we coordinated with them on the repair of these defects. Many municipalities have progressed to the point where they're at the point where they've repaired the defects and they've passed authorizing resolutions, authorizing transfer of these sewers. We are currently in the process of doing permit searches and submission of permits to DEP for transfer. So we have like four additional permits in the DEP currently. This transfer is a huge milestone, given that the Cohen report, that's the regionalization committee report, came out in 2013, which is it was an effort of multi-municipal stakeholders to come to grants on the procedures and the methods of transfer. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the board for their patience. I want to thank Arletta. I want to thank Julia Spiker, the manager of regionalization. She's really been spearheading this effort. I want to thank the AECOM team for assisting in this effort, as well as DEP for being cooperative, for making this a successful endeavor. So stay tuned. There's going to be more to come. And I want to thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. We're going to move on now to our 2022 capital budget status report. We have exhibit A that goes along with this. Ms. Kennedy.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be brief. This is the capital budget report that takes us through December 8th. We are at $134 million for the year, which is up almost $20 million from when I did the report back in October. And as you can imagine, the two biggest spenders were North End Facilities Construction and East Headworks Construction, and then followed by the Ohio River Tunnel final design and the Mons subaqueous emergency repair. So if you have any questions on what we've been doing in the capital budget report, I'd be happy to take them.
I'm not hearing any. All right, thank you. We'll move on now to the report of actions by the executive director and the approval of construction change orders that are less than $30,000. And this corresponds with exhibit B. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, we have two change orders here for reporting. The first, parking garage, and it is pulled together a variety of, and I would say some with respect to inspection of city things that have not been recognized, which is not uncommon with a project of this nature. I would also like to point out that the garage has been extremely well received by the workforce. I have received multiple calls, visits, text messages, emails, thanking us for the facility. So that's exciting. The second change is a closed out. It's the typical, we're going to need more quantity of material work done that we did. This just wraps it up as a credit.
Oh, it's nice to hear about those credits. Okay, thank you so much. We're going to now move into the action items. The first item is to approve the board minutes from November 17th.
Motion.
Second,
Okay, she's second. All right, all in favor?
aye.
Okay.
Talk louder.
Minutes are, okay, I just heard you, Paul. All right, the minutes are approved. Item B is to consider authorizing payments of invoices in excess of $20,100 during the period of November 8th through November 28th. This corresponds with Exhibit C. Ms. Williams.
And there's some questions about the invoice list, will be pleased to respond to individual questions with the short turnaround coming to this thing. The list is not as long as you typically would be, and look forward to making that up in January.
Thank you so much. If you have any questions, could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that has been approved. Item C is to award the following contract. 1752, repairs to fluid bed incinerator number 1 to Samakis, and I'm saying that one right, company. Okay, and that goes along with Exhibit B. Ms. Williams, you can explain this to all of us.
Madam Chair, it's an incinerator. It's a fluid bed incinerator. It requires repair. It's number 1. We did it before. It was cheaper. Please approve it.
Okay, please approve it. Because without it, we're in big trouble. That's what we're. Okay, may I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it has been approved. Item D is the motion to authorize the preparation of specifications and advertisements for bids for the following contracts, and this goes with Exhibit E. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, it is fairly straightforward. This is with respect to the operations and maintenance facility, the fourth floor. We've got leaks, we've got some exposures. We have worked over a few years now to try to patch. And then this is very necessary.
How old is this building now? Because it's kind of relative, right?
When did we open? 26. Something. 15.
Okay, well, kind of relatively new. It is.
Oh, definitely.
All right.
In the grand scheme of things, yes, it is compared to secondary treatment.
All right, okay. All right, could we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I think I heard Paul. Mr. Klein seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that has been approved. All right, moving on to item E is a motion to approve the following change orders that exceed $30,000. This goes along with Exhibit F, and I'll ask Ms. Williams to cover these items for us.
Madam Chair. The three projects, yes, North End once, East End Works twice. East End Works for electrical and general and parking garage. North End modifications were required that would facilitate our overall operation without an additional shutdown. Douglas did an excellent job explaining the impacts of a shutdown and what's required to initiate. So this change will allow us to forego one of those. The next two, again, East Head Works. Hard to miss the crane out there. We needed temporary power. Again, very straightforward. And just again and again, we will speak to those things that you don't recognize until you're in the ground, into the project. That's what you see more and more. Or you don't recognize until the building inspector comes. And says, you know what? You didn't see this line right here in this fine print. We have some of that in the third one. And the fourth one, parking garage, we want to make sure high heels don't get caught in journal drains. You know, that could be detrimental to our health and wellness.
Yes, it could be. Yes, it could be. No questions, but I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that has been approved. Items F, G, and H were discussed and reviewed in the Professional Services Committee meeting that was held last Thursday on December 1st. And they have been recommended to be presented to this week's full board meeting. The first item is a motion to approve the following service authorization for professional consultants. Is CDM Smith under the agreement for engineering consultant services for solids thickening and dewatering improvements. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, I would point out that these first two, service authorizations are us bringing a feedback for a contract that you previously awarded that we negotiated, and these are in keeping with what our expectations would have been. I will ask the Director of Engineering and Construction to briefly speak to both of them.
Sure.
So because I forgot to read the second one.
All right.
Go ahead.
We're doing the Harry Reid on here.
Thank you, Arletta. The solid thickening and dewatering is a very different type of project for the plant expansion, but just as important. This is going to really look at and analyze how we're going to be handling our solids when we're pushing our process tanks a little harder with that increased flow. So we're looking forward to getting that started. Now, what's interesting about this is that we'll probably purchase the centrifuges separately. So you'll be hearing more about this in 2023 as we bring the final design on board. And I'll bring everybody up to speed on what's happening with solids here at the plant. The second one is for
As she looked at me and smiled.
For Hatch, so we awarded Hatch the contract for the Ohio River Tunnel Construction Management. And what we want to do now is, this is for the pre-construction scope of services. So they're going to be helping us from a construction point of view for the constructability, biddability reviews, helping on a myriad of tasks to get the Ohio River Tunnel ready to bid and then support us through bidding services. When we bring the Ohio River Tunnel design construction to the board, then we would authorize the additional services for this contract. So this is just going to take us to when we're ready to award the construction of the Ohio River Tunnel. So definitely recommend both of these.
So the first one, the CDM Smith, and the second one is Hatch under the item F. So could I have a motion to approve these, please?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. It has been approved. Item G is a motion to award the Allegheny River Tunnel near Surface Facilities Package 6 project to DLZ. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, because Mike is feeling so feisty today. We're going to kick it to the Director of Additional Affairs. I didn't get a chance to opine as a professional.
Thank you, Arletta, Madam Chair. Yeah, this project is in the upper Allegheny reaches up near Sharpsburg and Aspinwall. It's currently undergoing development by a developer. It's going to be called Allegheny Shores Mercedes. And we're trying to get this project going because there's a potential that they could install houses or development and we'd have to go in and tear it up. So we want to get this design underway, get the borings done, get the survey done, and kind of coordinate with them hand in hand as they're developing that area. So we had our RFP. We got 3 responses. We had interviews, and we recommend that DLZ proceed with the design of this effort.
Any questions or comments, folks? All right, then the motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it has been carried. Item H is a motion for modification of service authorization 338 for MS Consultants for additional design, construction management, and inspection for gates M45, 45 and 034 under the contract 1724, which is regarding flat gate replacements at various locations. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, I think you covered the whole thing, right there. But again, Mike, if you would.
All right. Thank you, Arletta. Madam Chair. We had we got this contract going to replace like 8 gates in the system that were leaking and deteriorating and subject to river intrusion. And as we got this contract underway, the Manager Interceptor Systems came to us and said, can you add these 2 gates and add some scope of service to this project? And we of course accommodated him as he operates the interceptor system. So this is we added 2 pieces of this to MS's consultant scope. And they were requesting reimbursement for the additional design and construction management effort that they had undertake. So this is recommended that we accommodate the request.
There's a lot of fascinating things of the work that is done here in Alphasan. And when I first heard about Flapgate, I have to add that to some of the fascinating. Only because it's not something you think about,
Right.
but you realize how critical they are. And it's just so many things. And this was one of them. I remember how it's just kind of like, wow, me when I first learned about them. But so we'll move on. I'm sorry. We're moving on. Could we please get this approved?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Here, all. Okay, motion is carried. Item I is a motion to authorize our executive director to provide a letter of consent to execute any necessary documents related to the Birch Hydro's proposed assignment of contract 1743,
Excuse me.
the biosolids management services. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, this will provide for any transition of service with our current provider and allow for continuity of service.
The move. Kind of let's hold it.
Okay, Ms. Gilliam, Dr. Gilliam, did I hear a second from you?
Yes. Second.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that has been approved. Item J is a motion. This is one of those interesting ones too, to modify the grant agreements for the green revitalization of our waterways, which we know better as the GROW program, by extending the term of the contract, which we see on Exhibit G. Ms. Williams.
Madam Chair, again, a housekeeping issue. There are 5 projects here that require extension just to continue to support our municipal customers. You can see 4 of them had previously been extended. It is something that we will continue to do as the program is a great benefit to our overall clean water program.
Certainly has. And these projects are very interesting as well. If anybody has a chance to learn more about them. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That has been approved. Item K is a motion to approve the board meeting dates, which we have in Exhibit H, the dates for the 2023 calendar year. Ms. Williams, anything special?
Please approve.
That's all. Let's please approve. Okay, motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I could hardly see that people would say no to that. Item L is a motion to adopt the 2022 consulting engineers report and the 2023 operating and capital budgets. Ms. Williams,
Please approve.
just please approve, everybody.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Williams, do we have any new business that I'm not aware of? No, we do not. Well, then at this time, I will just duplicate your comments and say thank you all. Make sure you have a very happy, pleasant, peaceful, but especially safe holiday. And this meeting is now adjourned. You know, you're a
Thank you.
safety guy, so.
You're right now. What am I? You're right now.